So I'm gonna have Sheree come up and talk to you about the fun stuff that we've developed through research and community partnership. Sheree's worked in the community for over 25 years. She loves the region. She is the expert behind all of the branding that was done at Howerton+White. So please give her a round of applause. Thank you.
Melissa wasn't kidding. Hello. So I get to talk about how we actually sell the region. It's really about how we move from all of the data and the wonderful research that we were given to create meaningful messages that are actually going to make your job easier. And we understand the pressures that you are under. As Leah talked about, the talent crunch is a real thing. Talent wars are something that we're aware of. Our agency happens to work in all different fields, and it doesn't matter the field, if it's manufacturing or technology or whatever it may be, the talent wars are very real. The brand development process really started, as Leah pointed out, with research, and that is where all good brands begin, by listening. Our research extended beyond being immersed along with the DCI research, and it also extended into the competitive audit of what other cities are doing, what's working across the region, both for cities our size and for others that might be part of our target. We also had a really deep dive in what challenges are being faced here, and because we do work with so many people here in the region, we had a really good idea of what you all are facing every day. And then finally, we needed to create messages that actually overcame those barriers. So making sure we understood what the barriers were so that we could overcome them with our advertising strategy. Real quick, I always like to start with what is a brand, because inevitably we think about logos and visuals and all of the wonderful things that are on the table. But as you all know, I'm sure, a brand is much more than that. It's everything from the way you answer the phone to the culture, as Melissa described. And that's really key in terms of creating a brand for recruiting in Wichita. A brand for our region is about not only the impressions that people have, or lack of impressions that people have before they move here or visit here, but also about the experiences that people have when they are here. And I always like to say it's also what you say when you're caught off guard in the grocery store and someone says, "Hey, why'd you move to Wichita?" Or you talk to a college friend you haven't visited with in a long time. What you say in that moment is our brand. We had a lot of interesting things happening, and the benefit of that was that we, as marketers, we had a lot to pull on in terms of culture and experience. During the time leading up to this assignment, of course, all of us experienced elements of the culture, and I'm excited to hear about the role culture plays in talent recruitment. But here, as you know, we had a lot of things that were changing. I think that also changed how we ourselves were thinking about our city. And so, the shockers with shock the world, #PlayAngry, I think that some of that language actually infused our companies and our sense of self in the region. Of course, the flag became a symbol of civic pride. Project Wichita, when they released their results of the surveys, and the core values for our city include such things as the importance of investing in ourselves, the fact that we want to stay connected to community, that we are focused on the future generation, and that we will boldly seize opportunities. I don't know if that survey would have resulted in those same results 25 years ago when I started my career here. And so that's so exciting to see the commitment that people have for Wichita. Real quick, I just included the Blackout ICT, that little effort, because it's really important to see some of that language. Included in that are the idea of a restless spirit and a refusing to settle. So you see some of that kind of personality come out for our city. In determining the brand voice, then, we have to kind of take all of that into account. We have a lot of competing ideas and cultures. Wichita is really at a crossroads in terms of our culture and people who live here. We have the definite personality of being conventional, and yet I think all of us don't really want to see ourselves as conventional, and we try to kind of put forward our individualism in lots of different ways. It's joked about in some civic and government circles and in economic development that there's a Wichita way. We all do the research and we understand what other cities need to do or how other cities do things to be successful, but when it comes down to it, we choose ways that work for us here in Wichita and in the region. And then it does seem that in our culture here in the region, we are determined to create our own success. There is that strand of determination that is really important to our brand. The maverick archetype is a very American archetype, and it's the one that we chose for the talent recruitment brand for Wichita. And I want to say, too, as a native, not at all intimidating to have to try to brand your own city, and one that has really struggled with how to have people talk about themselves. But I want to just highlight that last part. The idea of rebellion, Maverick is sort of part of the family of brands that are part of rebellion, but only in a way that it leads to innovation and reform. Ultimately, renewal is at the heart of this archetype, and that's what we're really seeing expressed in all of the culture and the experiences in our city. And I just want to point out that it's important to start with a clear identity when you are branding, because identity determines behavior. And so without knowing who we are, you would have marketing strategies that would be all over the place and no consistency. And so at any time when we are talking about branding an organization or a business or even a city or a talent effort, it's all about creating that core identity. So the language that we then developed to articulate this identity was relentlessly original. That is what we call the brand promise, or sometimes called the tagline. It can be used with the hashtag or without. But the idea behind relentlessly original is that it is the expression of our identity. And the most important part of this is that it is meant to connect personally and emotionally to those people that you are recruiting. And so relentlessly original is about inviting prospects to create their own vision, their original idea of what they want their life to be, and that they can do that in Wichita. We like that it kind of expresses a sense of motion, that there's a determination and that there's a movement going on here. We want to communicate that to people who don't know anything about Wichita or know very little. Wanted to stress those historic elements of entrepreneurship and individuality that we can see as part of the air capital of the world and other industries that began here. And then that sense of the Midwestern work ethic, that we are relentless and we will not give up. In creating the key messages then, how do you support this brand identity? Relentlessly original is the tagline, but how do we use messaging to overcome, or at least introduce ideas to people to overcome the barriers that we know that research identified? So the first message pillar is around work. DCI said, you need to suggest to prospects that innovation is the work of Wichita. And so we're expressing that through the headline, Pursue Success Relentlessly. Welcome to a city with business innovation at its core, successful startups, leading global corporations, and thousands of opportunities in between. Oops. You have all of this messaging on your table, so I won't go through all of it, but some more calls to action and lots of different types of messages are part of the brand guide. The second message pillar is about life in Wichita. What is it like to live here? And so, again, using that sort of identity and the brand voice, we created Live Life Zealously. Here, life becomes bigger, expanding options, growing opportunity, and a place to make it all yours for less. It's not very exciting to say that the quality of life is higher and the cost is less. You have to find a little bit more way that's a way that's a little bit more engaging emotionally with people. And then within the website, you'll see that there's more information about living and the cost of living here in Wichita. So expand your, oh, I keep going backwards, I'm sorry. Raise your expectations is the call to action. And then finally, the third pillar is just about enjoying life here and finding inspiration that's often unexpected. One of the key findings and one of the elements that we always kind of came back to for DCI was that when they were here, they had teams of people visiting. They said, I'm just shocked, I'm surprised. Everyone always said, there's sort of this sense of wonder that there's so much here. And we wanted to capture that element of surprise and explain that in our marketing. So making unexpected discoveries, I think, is something that people who haven't been here, don't know a lot about Wichita, that's something that we can invite them to do. So I'd like to challenge you today to think about how a talent recruitment brand can work alongside your HR brand, your company's brand, to be more effective in selling and promoting the region to your prospects. We all have different stories, but we should all of our stories should sort of belong in the same book. They should sort of sound like they're coming from the same place, right? And so if there's that commonality, then the brand will be stronger because consistency is key. I'd invite you to use those key message pillars in your own communications with your prospects. And think about, how is your company relentlessly original? What makes you different? How are you part of this wonderful identity that we've built here in Wichita? And how can you tell that story to those you're trying to recruit and retain? So thank you so much for your time today.